Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the session on webinar on lie detection polygraphy, which is going to be a live demo presented by Clue for Evidence Foundation. It's an NGO for legal and forensic support. So the session going to be start in a couple of minutes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the session on webinar on lie detection polygraphy, which is going to be a live demo presented by Clue for Good evening once again. I would like to welcome you all once again to this webinar on lie detection polygraphy, which going to be a live demo. So straight coming to the point. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Our esteemed speaker, Mr. Paninda BN sir. He is a PDD expert. He is a PDD polygraphy, TVCS Africa. So his qualification is Academo in Forensic Documents and Fingerprint Section 45 of Indian Evidence Act. His additional trainings and certificates: certified from American Test, member of International Association of Identification, training on personal data protection. He has professional experience over 12 years, case examined over 4,750 cases even going, and deposed over 450 plus cases, forensic reports resulting in several convictions in criminal cases, and reports appreciated or upheld by courts including high courts, trial court across India, consumer forms, MACAT, department inquiries, court martial cases across India. So the honorary positions are Chairman and Managing Trustee of Clue for Evidence Foundation, an NGO of a NGO for investigation and legal support, advisor for International Association of Scientists and Research, Board of Studies and Board of Examiners member, Department of Forensic Science for Universities, dedicated teacher award given by His Excellent Governor Sri Hansraj Bharadwaj. And is also member of International Association of Document Examiners USA, member of International Association of Identification, member of Indian Academy of Forensic Science, Calcutta, member of Forensic Science Development Society, Lucknow. He has many research works and he has given many inevitable lectures on many topics. He is also an advocate as well as a court commissioned forensic expert. So once again, let's welcome our esteemed speaker, Mr. Panindabiyan sir. Sir, I would like to welcome you to this session. Please take over.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harsha, for this wonderful introduction. Participants, I welcome you all for this live case studies or live example, live demo of the very, very interesting topic, the lie detection. So I hope, is my screen visible? No. Yes, I think now the screen is visible. Yes, thank you. So first of all, in today's discussion, we shall be having an orientation about what the lie detection is and the legal consequences or legal admissibility of the lie detection in India, especially in India, and the other methods of lie detection, a simple orientation about that. But with all said and done, we'll also have a practical of the polygraph test, that is the lie detection test. We'll have one subject in front of us, and based on the basic understanding about the whole concept of how the polygraph works and what are the parameters in which the polygraph has to be conducted, we're going to discuss in this session. While this session is now having two different streamings, one on the YouTube streaming, and another we have participants on our Zoom meeting as well. The question from everyone in most of the cases is that how effective is the lie detection tests, or how effective is the procedures what we follow to identify the lie. So let me be very open at this moment that the reason which we are considering this test as a lie detection itself is to conclude that you can effectively detect the lie. But when you get to know that's a lie, you will not be able to say what is truth behind that particular lie, which means this procedure can effectively test and assert the statements if it is truth, if it is false. But because of the statement being false, what actually is the truth is not just said by this procedure. So we may have to do a inference. If hundreds of lies are being said, there must be only one truth, which means if I eliminate 99 different possibilities, only the last option should be the truth. That is the kind of approach what the polygraph or the lie detection techniques are adopted for. Yes, if you ask me, how old are these techniques? Is this technology or the technique what we're using, is it only used only in the 1990s or 2000s? When you ask me this concept of lie detection is not very new. It's been in practice since several years, several ages. Earlier, the Chinese practice is that for the kings and adjudicators of that country in the earlier stages, when they had to do some adjudication, whenever there is a dispute by the parties. When the parties come to the adjudicator, they used to adopt this raw rice method, where the people who are telling any kind of statements are first made to take one handful of rice, raw rice, and they actually put it in their mouth. Question would be asked, okay, and after they actually try to give the response as yes or no, whatever. After some time, they were asked to spit that particular rice which was in their mouth. More rice it comes out, okay, it actually means the more rice it comes out, the person is being honest, and the rice which does not actually come out and a lot of raw rice gets stuck in your mouth, that was the indicator that the person was lying. Let me ask the participants here, so why do you think that method was that particular result of the raw rice coming out or the raw rice being stuck inside the mouth was an effective method for concluding if it is a truth or a false? Can anybody answer this question? In the chat box available in both the platforms, you can try answering this question. Let me just take an understanding about what participants have to look at this scenario. All right, while few people are still commenting about it, see the concept behind this, rice being spit and to be concluded if the statement was truth or a false or a deceptive statement. There's a science behind it. There's a logic behind it. And none of the techniques what we were using it earlier, when I say techniques, it's not just the practice, it is a technique. Techniques are always supported by some kind of logical procedure for that. But this technique was actually effectively was used by the adjudicators who should be taking a decision if this person is being truthful or deceptive. They were using this method with a simple logic that when you're calm, when you're relaxed, when you're speaking something which is the truth, which is the fact, your body will also support your statements. And especially the saliva which is in your mouth, when you're being so truthful, you'll have so much of saliva in your mouth in such a way that when you're asked to spit the raw rice, because of the help of saliva, most of the rice will come out when you spit. But on the contrary, if in case you are lying, and people are lying, in this situation, because of the body temperature, because of the high stress, there was also saliva inside the mouth, and the mouth used to become dry. And because the mouth is dry, more rice will stuck inside the mouth, and it does not come outside when you spit. So this was an immediate indicator that the person is lying or the person is being truthful. Fine. This was the very, very ancient method which was being, which was adopted by many of the practitioners after that. But today, when we are sitting here with such a advanced technology and advanced era of investigation, the question is that are we effective in identifying the lie, and are we effective in identifying what is truth? So this is the situation which we are presently dealing with. Yet, at this point in time, the question before us is that, suppose I'm thinking something which is in my mind, which is a deceptive statement or a false, or I'm intentionally trying to lie, how does my body react to it? The same Chinese method logic which I'm talking about it right now. If I'm talking something bad, if I'm talking something which is a lie, how does my saliva get so wet? Why will my mouth get so wet? And why will people be able to identify just because of number of the amount of rice which is coming outside my mouth? That becomes a question. For the same reason, participants, you have to understand that this method of the lie detection technically is called as PDD techniques. That is psychophysiological detection of deception. P, D, and D refers to psychophysiological detection of deception techniques. Ultimately, when we discuss about the term psycho, Psycho is something to do with your mind, and physiology is something to do with your body. So this techniques of lie detection is a combination of psychophysiological detection of deception. Whatever you think which is wrong, which is bad, which is a lie in your mouth, which is a lie in your mind, it actually comes out through some bodily reaction, is what this terminology has to state. And one effective or one scientific understanding is that it's a matter of fact that whatever the emotions we actually carry in our mind, very often it carries through our body. And see, you would have heard about face reading, facial expressions, eye contact. People get to know by looking at your eyes that you are happy or you're sad. How does that react? People get to know the moment they look at your face. There's something wrong with you. So why? Because of your mind, the thoughts of your mind, which is reflecting on your body. So that is the simple understanding what you can relate to your everyday activities. But the technique itself is called as a psychophysiological detection of deception. Yet, when we're discussing about this, now the question before us is, if this subject of the lie detection, is it a skill or science? Skill is completely proportionate to the examiner or the person who is conducting the test, or who is claiming that I can detect the lie. That is a skill which is variable because of the person who is connecting it. That is a skill. But when we discuss about science, science is something which is very systematic, which can be measured, which can be tested, which can be redone. Okay, so even if you redo it with the same procedure, with the same sample, you must get the same result. That is what the meaning of science is. But in terms of skill, skill is more to do with your practice. How much you are practicing, how much continuously you're practicing, the skill becomes so good. The skill becomes superior. See, that is why in the police investigations or the typical investigation cases, a senior officer is actually set to be investigating the case very quickly, very effectively, or very competently. Why? Because of his skill which he has earned over a period of time. All right, but something to do with science is something which we do in our forensic laboratories. Even a newly recruited junior officer or a scientific officer, when the sample is given to them, they conduct the experiment, which would be very similar to what a 20-25 years experienced scientific officer or the assistant director or even the director would be conducting on that particular sample. So the question before us, if the concept of lie detection is a skill or a science, so whatever we require to detect the lie, the trainings, the environment, the skill, the practice, what we actually come from, that has more to do with skill, but it is also science. The reason why we use this for a legal process, or the reason why this particular procedure can be said that this can effectively say if it is a lie or not, is because it is science. It is a skill and science, a combination of both. I'll tell you how. Science is what you actually look at on the screen, because there is no tool right now by which you can conduct the experiment, you can conduct the test, you can ask whatever you want. And these tools does not effectively indicate on your screen, oh, this person is lying. You would have seen many of this reality shows on the screen, or some kind of hype creating TV shows, where it is said, the moment you say lie, there'll be a alarm, bam, bam, bam. So a red light. So all typical, hype creating, sequences. But literally speaking, when we look at the polygraph, it is actually a system dependent for an examiner. The examiner has to be trained. The examiner should definitely have the skill of conducting this test. But the results are purely based on the scientific methodologies. And the tools what we use for the lie detection, which we are going to be seeing very soon, these kind of tools will add as a diagnostic tool for an examiner, because these tools will only give us the graph. Suppose you go to the doctor and doctor suggests you to go for a CT scan, and the scan you only see the graphs, and that graph is to be brought to the doctor for its interpretation. Okay, because the graph does not tell, or which will print it saying that this person has a heart problem or a heart blockage or whatever it is, because that should be interpreted by the doctor. So about the graph. So similarly, for the polygraph examiner also, there will be certain parameters, certain inputs, certain values which we collect during the time of our examination. And because of our training, we are trained to interpret those graphs if it is a lie or deceptive statement or a truthful statement. So this is how this whole procedure works. But now, when we are discussing about how do we actually treat the subject, see, in the polygraph test, whoever comes in front of us for the purpose of examination, we consider them to be the subject. First of all, the person before they come to the polygraph test, there are two sequences. Ultimately, the person before coming to the polygraph is definitely stressed, definitely having that fear. He's scared about the process. Why? If it is a police investigation case, police would have done a lot of third-degree treatment, scared him. He has a lot of fear about the process, a lot of other things. If it is a non-criminal case, I am underlining this word, non-criminal case, this situation for non-criminal cases would be in any kind of relationships, marital disputes, husband doubts wife, wife doubts husband. So in spite of all these things, the person who come before the polygraph examiner for being a subject, ultimately they are scared about the process, they are scared, they are stressed. And because of that fear around them, they are brought before you for the purpose of examination. So ultimately, it does require the examiner to provide them a degree of comfort so that they can actually share the information freely. See, when the subject comes to the polygraph examiner or the lie detection expert, we are stranger to them. Rather, they are also stranger to us. How do you expect a stranger who has not revealed any information so far to any of their trusted network sources, and altogether they are coming before you, who is a stranger, and you're expecting them to be sharing every information? That is possible only when you give that comfort and degree of confidence that yes, I can be such person with whom you can share the fact or the truth. Okay, so the purpose of you coming to me itself is to share the truth, and I'm going to certify what are the statements you have given, if it is a truth or if it is a deception. So for this purpose, it requires a degree of comfort which is to be given to the subject. So second requirement here is that to have the confidence on the process. The subject who comes before you should be confident enough to rely upon your results, the examiner's result. So ultimately, the examiner is expected to be behaving or conducting himself with utmost professional manner. When we say professional manner, it requires the examiner himself to have certain ethics, certain procedures, certain protocols. All those things are to be effectively drafted and followed by the examiner so that the confidence of the subject and his known people would be very much high on your procedure, the examiner's procedure. Third is that making the subject to be aligned to the system of our choice. When they come here for the purpose of the polygraph test, we actually ask them to do certain things which they might not be very comfortable, or they would not have done these things earlier ever. If you people have seen the movies or the serials in which they show the polygraph tests, the subject is made to sit straight, okay, on a armless chair, Okay, some kind of nodes or the readers are attached to the hands. Okay, they have to sit straight and to be answering those questions. So how many of us actually sit as are typical that that shape? When you sit on the chair, how many of you really maintain that a vertical, horizontal, and vertical shape of your sitting alignment? Not everybody on every time we maintain the same gesture. So like this, we are going to ask the subject to follow or not to do certain things what we actually ask them to do it. So for this, they have to be aligned to the system of our choice. Next. When we are now discussing about the lie detection, there are many techniques for lie detection. So however, all these techniques does come under PDD. But when we look at a simple search on the Wikipedia on lie detection for that matter, it gives you a list, a big list of different techniques available for the lie detection, out of which brain mapping, narco analysis, polygraph or the voice polygraph techniques, eye contact, micro expressions, body language. These are few which are also listed among the different techniques available for the lie detection. However, when we say the polygraph is one of the technique in the lie detection concepts. Even without adopting the polygraph test, there are many other techniques in which you can effectively detect the lie. See, when we actually go to the home, when your father is asking you, hey, where had you been? You would say, I had been to my friend's place. The moment you say that, he will realize you are lying to him. How? Because of certain changes in the way you presented the whole statement, or there could be some changes in your body language, knowingly or unknowingly. Even if you did observe yourself that your body changed, your gesture changed, your tone changed, there could be some other reactions on your body, whether you observed it or not. With your knowledge or without your knowledge, ultimately, people on the other side got to know that you are not being truthful. And especially in terms of people who are married in the relationships, often your spouse will get to know if you're lying. How? Because it is not that they are very competent in understanding the lie. It is because every person, if they have an intention, and if you closely observe the other person when they are speaking something, you will definitely be able to understand their normal behavior versus abnormal behavior. When I say abnormal, hey, when he said this statement, he was not normal. There was some change which I observed when he said this statement only. So you would definitely be able to understand and observe this kind of changes, especially with those whom you're really dealing with on a everyday basis. So you definitely get to know about that change which could have caused when they speak something. So ultimately, it is not really challenging, it is not really tough to understand if the other person is being deceptive. But what is challenge, what is tough for us here is that to demonstrate that they lied. You can detect the lie, but how do you justify, how do you demonstrate that this statement was a lie? That is a question which actually is a challenge for the law enforcement or the polygraph examiners. And for that requirement, we use certain scientific tools and scientific gadgets which actually captures your body reactions, okay, which could include the cameras, because when we say your eye contact was different, your micro expressions were there, you changed certain things in your body. So when we have to say all these things, definitely there should be something which can demonstrate what you did in a particular process. So for that requirement, the scientific community of the polygraph examiners, we use different gadgets, different tools, different such infrastructure which has to be used for demonstrating if the subject did lie or did not lie during the test phase. So this is the simple understanding. So the ultimate understanding with this topic of discussion is that lie detection is not tough. Anybody can detect the lie, anybody can understand the other person is lying. But what is challenging is to how do you demonstrate that other person is lying? That is a challenge which we discuss as to how this can be addressed. When we discuss about the lie detection, ultimately, there should be a purpose of why you're using this. So this is a very effective tool used by several investigation agencies across the globe. It is not just used by one or two agencies, but this is one such tool which is used by several of the investigation agencies across the world. It's a scientific tool having a evidentiary value. I'll come to that. I'll come to what is the significance of this in India and abroad India. I'll discuss about it. But however, it is a scientific tool having a evidentiary value. It can effectively detect the lie and deception. So that is why it is called as the lie detection techniques, lie detectors. Okay, so this can effectively detect the lie. But the only challenge is that it might not be able to say what is the truth. When we detect the lie, we cannot, just because it is a lie, I cannot say this is the truth otherwise. We'll come to the discussion specifically. And the tool which we're discussing as a lie detection test, this would definitely be an extra feather for an investigator. Because while in the police or real-time investigations, there are 100 different probabilities. 100 different probabilities. There will be only one which is a fact. So to find this one fact, either you first detect what is that fact or eliminate the 99 different probabilities, and then the leftover can only be the fact. So there are two different procedures. One is the identification of what actual fact is, and another one is the elimination of what the fact it is not. So in both of these two concepts, the result can be achieved. Either if you're lucky, you see, ultimately when the police go to the crime scene, so they find a fingerprint, and based on the suspects, okay, they have all the probabilities. They go pick one single person who is the criminal behind this murder, for example, because police know that this is the person who has committed this offense. So when they come and take his fingerprint matches. That is the identification protocol. They don't even go for any of the suspects at all. They only found one person's fingerprint matched, there ends the story. But what if this was not the scenario and there are 100 people and police had to collect the fingerprints of all 100 people, okay, and 99 people's fingerprint did not match, and there's only one other fingerprint which is left over there. So that fingerprint after that can be matched. So this 99 people elimination protocol can actually lead the investigator to a very close approach towards what is the fact. So just because you are eliminating 99 people in this scenario, this actually does not mean the leftover one person is actually the criminal. That only gives an extra feather to an investigator, or that's a step ahead. To get that lead, it requires the 99 people to be eliminated so that they don't be disturbed again and again for the purpose of investigation. So like this, the approach of the lie detection has different dimensions, which will be decided and chosen by the respective investigation officer. But ultimately, this is a very, very effective tool in terms of investigation concern. One of the other advantage of the lie detection test is that not just one crime. Suppose you are conducting the polygraph test for one particular crime, but because of one particular such test, you can actually detect several past crimes, same person. So it is not just one crime which you're trying to investigate. See, you might be investigating one particular scenario, but because of this scenario, of this situation, there are probabilities. There is a possibility that the polygraph examiner can also detect the past crimes of the same individual. So this can also be a reason why this should be used as a very effective tool. Techniques are admitted by several courts across the globe. So this technique, when we discussed about this technique, this is a scientific tool. Because it is a scientific tool, several courts across the globe admits the result of this particular tool. However, limitations. While today we are having the webinar and the audience majority are from India, we do have a limitation of the legal admissibility of the polygraph evidence or the lie detection tests result before the court. This actually was established by very famous court judgment called Selvi versus State of Karnataka. This particular case judgment is a benchmark case or a precedent case for using the lie detection result or the polygraph result in India as a particular evidence matter is concerned. So when I said this is a scientific tool, no doubt, but in spite of this being a scientific tool, the Supreme Court has in the particular judgment have mentioned that this polygraph result or the polygraph report will not be considered as a evidence before the court. This is a statement which we have got from this particular judgment. All right. So what happened in Selvi versus State of Karnataka? So though we are using the scientific tool, the judgment says it should not be considered as evidence. But many of the people think that, oh, lie detection technique, or it is not conclusive, it is not scientific, it is not technical. Because of this, this judgment was given not to be considered that as evidence. But factually, dear participants, it is not the lacuna in the tool or the process. It is actually because of the constitutional rights, which is actually being given in our Indian Constitution. The procedure of polygraph is said to be violating one of the fundamental rights of the individual. Okay, so Article 20, subclause 3 of Indian Constitution, which actually says no one can be compelled to be witness of his own cause, which means in the procedure of polygraph, we actually take the statement and this statement will be held against the same subject. You said this is a false. So this statement is held against the same subject. So this process is actually considered to be the violation of our Indian Constitution. 20 subclause 3, Article 20 subclause 3. So this judgment was purely based on this particular article only if the polygraph test violates this particular right or not. And it was held, yes, affirmative. The polygraph test definitely violates the Article 20 subclause 3 rights of the particular individual. So for that reason, this cannot be permitted. That's what the Supreme Court said. But in addition to that, if people ask, in general, if such is the situation, how will the police investigate the crimes? How effectively the criminals can be found if they are lying or being truthful? That's a challenging situation for us. But for this, there's also a scope which was given in the same judgment. The judgment mentioned in the cases where the police should be conducting the polygraph test, the guidelines which are established by National Human Rights Commission in India should be strictly followed. The National Human Rights Commission of India, they are the watchdogs of the human rights in India. So whenever there is a reported cases of human rights violation, this is the first statutory body which comes into action. So when this is said to be violation of human rights because of Article 20 subclause 3, so this Human Rights Commission has floated a guideline for conducting the polygraph tests. It is also true that in several cases, the police cannot obtain the consent of the subject. If I am the criminal, how will I give the consent? Oh, okay, I'll give the consent, you do the polygraph test on me. That is not so practical. And for this reason, the permission by the magistrate is to be obtained is what the Human Rights Commission says. So accordingly, the Human Rights Commission guidelines has very clearly mentioned on how the investigation officer can conduct the examination, which is a polygraph examination. But in spite of this, Supreme Court has held, in spite of you following the National Human Rights Commission guidelines, the report which says this subject lied to this particular question, just because you are mentioning this person lied here, I cannot convict him. Okay, because the court requires what is the truth. Court is not really worried about if you are saying false. It is equal burden that you have to prove two things. One, this statement is false, but the other statement is factually correct. You have to prove along with the material evidences. So for this reason, the report on polygraph is not considered to be typical evidence before the cases. But what is important here in that any subsequent findings by the police officer based on the polygraph result. Say, for example, in a particular case, I was investigating in a criminal case, I was investigating with the polygraph examination. This person mentioned the weapon which he procured to kill a particular girl was procured in a railway station. I asked him in the polygraph test, did you obtain this weapon in the said railway station or not? So for which he mentioned what was the answer. I realized it is wrong. He was decepting in the test. So this only gave the confirmation to the police that he did not procure that weapon in that particular railway station. But where did he really procure that? And this result does not actually mean that he procured the weapon from some other source, matlab a known source. We can only say he did not procure this weapon from this railway station. But where he actually procured, that I could not say, only with the help of polygraph. That require additional intelligence. So when police happen to find some other reasons or some other facts, he would have procured this weapon there. When that question was asked to him, did you procure this weapon there? So he then answered that was ascertained. So this result of the polygraph can definitely be an effective tool for further inquiry, further investigations, and further findings. And that finding, what they did, will be a valid evidence. But only the report which said this person was lying is not a valid evidence, is what this judgment will teach us. Now, okay, I have already given that statement. All right. In the process of polygraph test, in the famous cases also, we have observed people who are known to be the real-time criminals happen to come clean in the polygraph tests. Probably many of you would relate to the Jolly LLB 2 Part 2 movie, where one of the person will be subjected for the polygraph test. That was a manipulation. Okay, I'm not really interested in the manipulation, but in the cases like Arushi or Telgi's case, people were subjected to the polygraph tests, and it was also mentioned that they came out very clean in these tests. So how could anybody cheat the polygraph test? If you ask me this, there are definitely different countermeasures available for the polygraph tests. So, but for a trained and experienced examiner, this person who is trained and experienced can definitely identify those countermeasures in his test. So it is not a real-time challenge, no, but there are certain countermeasures available for different people. I'll discuss this very in detail very soon about what are the countermeasures which people can take and how they can effectively participate and cheat in the test. Okay, I'll discuss very soon. One of the limitation for this polygraph test is that the consumption of time and the sub-issues being raised during the test. So it's a challenging situation where the time which is required for conducting the polygraph test, it's a lengthy time, which could be like in certain cases days together. We take the preparation, procedures, a lot of things, because when we go on asking one particular issue, the person will give 100 different explanations, and we may have to end up ascertaining those individual statements. Okay, that also becomes a subtask for a polygraph examiner. So for these reasons, this might become a very challenging, but I don't say it is impossible. It is just challenging. And certain limitations are because of the time consumption and the sub issues being raised in the whole process, which is definitely something which we can do it as a procedural aspect of the examination to be conducted. Okay. There are many people who would actually say, I mean, there are many among us who would say, oh my God, I know one of my friend, he lies so effectively. I mean, nobody can know that he's lying. He has been lying so many years. So yes, there are people around us, no doubt about it. But he's lying so easy? I would say no, because lying is not easy. Lying is very, very difficult. And you were carried away by certain distractions which the person did when he was lying, because of which you did not observe those leakage of the emotions. So you are innocent. For this reason, you believed that statement. But lying definitely is not so easy. It's a very difficult task, because there's a lot of conflict in your mind when you try to lie. So we'll discuss ongoingly. The principle that states lying make more cognitive and emotional effort than telling the truth. Because telling truth is just one statement, but telling lie is very, very difficult, because when you lie on something, you actually, after some time, do not know what you actually lied there. Okay? So unless until you only said one lie, you don't remember what actually you lied. And when this becomes a practice, people whom we call it as bluffers, people who bluff, okay, because here they say something, there they say something else, because they actually do not have the fact in their mind. So that is nothing but deception. So ultimately, the lying will take more cognitive and emotional efforts than being truthful. Looking for leakage, change from the baseline. When I say change from the baseline, that is the normal pattern versus the abnormal pattern. We have to observe that. Okay, people will not just come and say, look, I'm able to lie to you and let me see what all things you will reject. No, but you will have to have, see, while we discuss this, there's a beautiful statement which is mentioned in one of the author of document examination, Albert Osborne. He mentions things are not seen unless it is looked for. Unless and until you look that particular information, you'll not find it. So for the same reason, here also, unless and until you're looking at the person's reaction, person's baseline, you'll not really understand if he's lying or being truthful. So for this reason, there's always a leakage. But only question is, are you able to observe that leakage? That becomes a question. So, however, observable elements includes face, that is the face reactions, body language, voice, statements are something which you yourself can detect it, I mean, observe it without the help of any kind of scientific tools. But for science, we have, for scientific aids, we have different reading, the reactors or the nodes, what we usually use it for our input for the body reactions. But otherwise, anybody can detect the lie only with the help of certain keen observations. Okay, very, very important topic to discuss is, if this what we do is are we able to maintain a social responsibility versus the moral responsibility versus a professional and official responsibility. So there are three different responsibilities for an examiner or investigator. It could be in any investigations for that matter. So when police actually arrest a person for some crime, see that this person happened to steal a pound of bread from a bakery. Okay, so he stole a pound of bread from the bakery, a bun from the bakery. Stealing is a crime. Okay, when police is called for this situation, what should police do? Should police let go of this person because he stole 1 pound of bread with a history that he was hungry for 3 days, or he has his old age mother who is lying on the bed? He wanted something to be given to her for feeding. Because of the he stole, should police let him go? Or because he stole 1 pound of bread, which is actually offense, should they commit? Should they actually arrest him? There is always a conflict between the social responsibility versus moral responsibility versus the professional and official responsibility. But this is a very, very, a dicey situation, which we usually get into, answerable while you do the examination. But however, only one among the three can be maintained. You choose one which automatically compromises the other two in our practice. That is the significance of these three different responsibilities, which are very, very significant in their individual capacity, but all three effectively cannot be maintained in the same case. Yes. Now, coming to the aspect of how the polygraph has to be conducted. There are different natures of questions. In the polygraph also, we'll choose different categories of questions for taking the subject through his statements. So the very, very significant categories is that irrelevant questions and sequence related questions, controlled questions, relevant questions. So these are the four major categories of questions what we use for our polygraph test. So this can also be used for the investigations. This can also be used for the cross examinations by different advocates. That's their way of preparation. But however, for the purpose of polygraph, we use different questions. Why? Why should we have different categories of questions? Very simple question, simple scenario I'm going to give it to you. When you are suspected of something, suppose let's take the example of the college. Suppose you did some mischief, you broke the bulb in your classroom, you are called to the principal's cabin. So what do you prepare yourself? Principal is going to ask me, why did you break the bulb? So I should answer, okay, like my friend did that, I did this, because of that it just broke away, I'll make it good. That should be my answer. You prepare yourself before you go to the principal's cabin, because you know what are the questions he might ask you. So you are mentally prepared for that. So fine, you go to the principal's cabin, you are just right in front of the principal, and principal asks you, you're just awaiting. Principal is going to ask me, why did you do this? But rather, principal asked you, do you come to the college by bus or by your own vehicle? Seriously? Because I am prepared to answer the questions for the bulb. And suddenly principal is asking me, did I come by bus or by bicycle or by motorcycle? How is that relevant for the situation? But when you try to answer that, your preparation about the questions about the bulb is compromised. All right. Suddenly principal asks you, why you do this? And then you start. Why? Because he did something which you did not expect. You're not prepared for that. So ultimately, the questions categories are so arranged that the irrelevant questions, sequence related questions, controlled questions, and relevant questions. Let us try to understand what is this irrelevant question. As the dictionary meaning of irrelevant question, it is something which is not at all related to the subject matter of your discussion today. Suppose you might be conducting a polygraph for a theft case or a murder case or an infidelity case. So irrespective of this situation, and when you are asking some question about something else, that is the irrelevant question to this particular situation. That is one category of question, and for which the answer should always be yes. Did you come to the college by your own vehicle this morning? That should be yes. Okay, so that is the significance which I have given for the irrelevant question and yes. Next is the sequence related questions. Okay, sequence related questions is specific to this situation which we conduct, and we just may end up asking, are you trying to do this now? Are you trying to lie to this test now? Okay, we will take a sequence right now. Next is control question, and the answers for this should be no. And this is a very, very interesting and very, very important category of question for our polygraph. This is also called as the controlled sample. In the forensic laboratories, we always take this controlled sample, a reference sample, known sample, something like that. For this reason, this becomes a controlled question. And the examiner, when asking this question, this category of question, will already know that this subject is going to lie to this particular question, for which the examiner should have some kind of background of the whole case. So this will act as an advantage. So suppose in the same situation, okay, when principal calls a student to the cabin to investigate about the bulb, principal, if in case I am the principal and I'm going to ask a controlled question, so I'm going to ask the student, you are not a student, you are not such a student who would do mischiefs like this in the class. This student would be known for doing mischiefs in the class. But when I'm asking the controlled question, I would rather ask him, you are not that person who would actually do a lot of mischiefs like this, correct? And he says, yes, I am not such kind of person. So this is a known lie, for which the answer what we receive is to be no. And the relevant question, as per the dictionary meaning, did you break the bulb? That is a relevant, that is a category of relevant question, and for which the answer must be no. And if for the relevant question, he says, did you really break the bulb? For example, if he disputes, no, I did not actually break the bulb. So if he disputes over that, then this person will be called to the polygraph test. But when I'm asking this question, did you break the bulb? He would say, if he says yes, that is considered as the admission. Admission is the best evidence. So if he says no, that is the category which is required to be tested. So this becomes a relevant question for the testing procedure. All right. The uniqueness of the control question is that it is a known lie. The subject knows that the answer is actually a lie. And the third, it is an intentional lie. And why we are doing this is to get the baseline or a controlled graph. Ultimately, when I show you the graph, I'll discuss more about the controlled question. Okay. However, after this slide, dear participants, we'll be starting with our life. By considering all these parameters together, I'll be conducting a test for a subject who is right in front of me right now. Okay, but before that, we should also understand something about the pre-test phase. We have pre-test phase, test phase, and post-test phase. In the pre-test phase, there are a lot of things which we actually collect certain information about the particular subject. So this includes a lot of information about the subject details, their age, their status, their background, their criminal history, whatever is applicable to the given subject. Next, we actually also have something called as honesty rating, because the pre-test phase is all about giving the comfort to the person. I discussed this in the beginning as to what happens in the pre-test phase. So in the pre-test phase, we also take the honesty ratings. Matlab, suppose if I ask the participants on the session here, let you be my subject right now. Participant, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least and 10 being the highest, how much do you score for yourself about your honesty? Can you please start chatting in the chat box? How much do you want to score yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least and 10 being the highest, about your honesty? Asha? Any inputs? Got it? Participants, you will have to feed that number which you want to score for yourself between 1 to 10, 1 being the least and 10 being the highest. You have started putting the information. Okay. 8. Okay. 7. 8. Okay. 7 of 10. Okay. All right. I'm going to make a note that you would be scoring yourself 8 out of 10 for your honesty. That means if you are the subject, I'm going to consider your statement, your number to all of my discussion in future. For which, so participants, I would like to just brief you along with the real-time situation right now. I'm going to take the help of my subject, and I'm going to conduct the pre-test phase and the test on the subject right now. So I will also take help of my volunteers, okay, to help me in connecting this, the readers to the subject, so that we start discussing about the real-time demonstration of the polygraph test. Can you help me in fixing this to the subject? And what you can see on the screen, dear participants, is the graph. I was mentioning you about the graph, and this is the reading of one such graph. So we'll discuss on how to understand these graphs, in our real time. But while this is being set here, what is that environment at which we can conduct the examination? So this becomes a significant, this might not be a technical topic of discussion, but this is very much essential for your preparation. Now, pleasant environment is definitely required for this particular examination process. Why? Because when the subject is coming inside, they are definitely stressed, scared, and a lot of things we discussed earlier, for which when they actually come inside and in front of the desk of a polygraph examiner, they should definitely feel that comfort and that pleasant environment, so that they actually can relax while giving the statement to us. Next, your whole environment, the cabin of where the examination is conducted, so it should be having the light colors. Why are we recommending the light colors? Do we have something to do with the light colors? The light colors, definitely everybody might have a color psychology. We'll discuss about color psychology very soon, but the subject will feel very pleasant when actually he witnesses the light colors. Any kind of dark and disturbing colors should be avoided, which can be seen or which can actually appear opposite to the subject. Next, the makeup and hairstyle. Are we discussing something about the beautician's shop, or are we discussing something about the polygraph? It's very essential that for conducting the polygraph, the examiner should not have a lot of makeup or very disturbing hairstyle. Okay, why? Because this makeup and hairstyle might be acting as a distraction to the subject. All right. Next, the seating arrangements. The seating arrangement should be in such a way that the person is comfortable, and the gesture and the seating arrangement should be so given so the person feels relaxed while answering your question. Next, the background. The examiner's background should not have a lot of distractions. A screen or a moving object should be avoided, because the subject's attention will be distracted when you have such things in your back, because they are able to see what is on your back. Next, entry and exit point. The entry and exit point should never be opposite to the subject. Okay, it should be opposite to the examiner, because there is always something called as the body language, or the person when they see the door, they want to always look at the door because they are not really comfortable sitting in front of you for the polygraph examination. Ultimately, these are the recommended infrastructure for conducting an effective polygraph test. All right. So next, let me discuss about the color psychology right now. Okay, when we are discussing about the colors, definitely not everybody likes the same color. Look at the screen, participants. I'll count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The red, which is just appearing on your entire screen, and for you to look at the red screen for another 5 seconds is not really going to be so comfortable. Oh my God, another very dark color. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Not very comfortable to look at for a long time. Different colors will actually disturb, and you don't feel like watching the screen for a long time when such colors are there. Similarly, when such dark colors are there in your cabin where you're conducting the examination, the subject might mentally be very tiring, okay, without their knowledge. For this reason, you should have very, very light and pale colors in our cabin for the purpose of examination. This is the recommended procedures for conducting the test. However, now coming to the live, I have the subject who is ready, okay, and I will just demonstrate on how this subject is now looking. Asha, can I have that laptop in front of her? That laptop. The subject will be now given that opportunity. Yes. All right. Can we have the broadcast of the camera also? Yes. Participants, we have one of our volunteer, Poonam. Poonam has volunteered to be herself a subject for this particular process, wherein which that's not I can talk. Okay, wherein which. So I'll just show you what are all the notes, what are all the readings which we are taking from the whole test. So I would like to shift. All right, Poonam, can you show what you have attached to your index finger? Yes, there is one particular reader on the index finger of one hand. So there are another couple of readers on the other hand, and we also have a reader for taking the temp. You can see this. Okay, I'm also going to attach this reader for the hand. Okay, and she is also attached with the belt on her chest, okay, which actually takes the reading. Yeah, alignment. Which actually takes the reading of her breath. So with this few inputs, okay, how do I connect the polygraph test? So let us go through the screen which I want to share. Okay. Yes. However, participants, whatever the concepts we discussed so far remains same for any category of polygraph test. However, the further option which I am going to demonstrate on the screen right now may vary depending upon the technology or the service provider who has supplied the infrastructure for your test. However, on the screen, we have the graph started. Did I share my screen? No, okay. All right, my screen is visible, Harsha? Yes, thanks. On the screen, you can start, you saw that one of the graph has started taking the reading, a red color graph, okay? However, it's not really important for this audience right now as to what what wire is trying to take what reading. However, it is simple to understand that different inputs will be useful for different measurement of different the reactions of the body. However, I have chosen one such graph. I'm going to choose the second graph. Okay, if in case I activate all the other graphs, these are the different inputs which my system is collecting from this subject. However, subject, Poonamji, I would request you to only focus on your screen, okay, so that the pre-test phase would be conducted. All right, fine. Can I have your full name? I'm going to act as a typical polygraph examiner. Okay, so Poonam is going to be the subject. Okay, so Poonamji, can I have your full name? Yes. Yes. Thank you. Subject is not asked to unmute her microphone. It's okay because whatever the information she's trying to give, we are not anyway. She's not the actual suspect because she's just a subject for this demonstration. So it's not important to validate the statements given by her. But I'm just going to show how the procedure will happen. Your full name is Poonam. Okay. 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 You are. Poonamji, can I have your Poonamji, can I have your date of birth? Okay. All right. That means what is your age? Okay. Fine. Poonamji, can I have understanding as to suppose, see, for every subject to come before a polygraph test, there should be some reason. Either the person could be suspected for some issue or some situation. For this discussion here today, we'll just take a small issue, okay, or a scenario that somebody is claiming that you had ice cream without inviting them. Okay, one of your friend put a very serious allegation on you that you had ice cream without inviting them yesterday night. I'm going to test if that particular scenario is truth or false. Okay, so that means you are aware at this point in time as to why we are sitting in for a polygraph test. So Poonamji, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 being the least and 10 being the highest, how much do you score for yourself for honesty? 8. 8 of 10. All right. Poonamji, in everybody's life, there'll be some category of people, some people around us who would generally trust whatever we say. Okay? I want you to focus on the screen, okay, so that people get to see as a straight alignment. Okay? So in everybody's life, there'll be people who generally trust us, which includes father, mother, siblings, your close friends. Okay, can you tell me your father's name? Okay, your mother's name? Your siblings? Okay. Your close friends. The name of your close friends? So, in general, these are the people who generally trust us in our life. So, Poonamji, while you already have scored 8 out of 10, which actually means, and while you also have given a list of people who generally trust you, that actually means that you don't lie to the people who generally trust you. You don't cheat the people who generally trust you. You don't steal from the people who generally trust you, correct? Correct. For me to proceed with my examination further, I also require a few additional information, dear subject, Poonam. Do you have any medical disorders from which actually might adversely impact your health or your mind? Are you consuming any kind of medicine which has any effect on your mind and body? That was serious drugs, nothing like that. All right, no medication right now. Okay, were you treated for any serious medical disorders in the past 2 years? No. Are you okay? Do you consume any kind of recreational drugs? Participants, it's very essential for me to be very unbiased. It's because she is just a girl, Indian cultured, and 20 years old. Okay, so all these things will be treated as a biased information. For me, subject is a subject. I am definitely going to ask what are things I should be asking for any subject for that matter. Okay, do you consume alcohol? If yes, for example, we should also understand how much did they consume, when did they consume, to understand if that has any effect for this minute's examination procedure. Okay, people might have hangover and a lot of other reactions. So it's very essential for the examiner to understand what is that going to be. And people, if you observe the screen right now, look at her body reaction. Okay. So far, she was calm. Okay, when I'm asking something about the medical and other things, automatically her reaction changed. All right, this is only a demonstration that because certain things which you're thinking on your mind might actually reflect on your body reaction. However, I'm not trying to comment if this graph indicates lie or a truth. It's only a simple understanding at this point in time that this graph, this readings are directly proportional to your body reactions. Okay, when I am discussing this, okay, look at the graph, it's becoming stable, right? Because she is now getting adopted, because she did not, she is not the actual subject or actual suspect to be brought in for a polygraph test. But ultimately, when she is volunteering herself, look at the stability of her reaction. That's coming very, very normal right now. So ultimately, what I am discussing right now, which actually does not relate to her, she is becoming calm. And the moment I talk about Poonam, do you consume alcohol? You said no. Okay. Do you smoke? No. All right. Fine. So that means you have given me sufficient information at this point in time, Poonam. But before I conduct my examination further, I would like to give you an opportunity to state that why even you were suspected of not inviting your friend to an ice cream party yesterday night. So is it like, your friend doesn't like you, or is there any frequent calls which you have with your friend which would have resulted your friend to bring you here for the polygraph? Nothing like that? Okay. Is there anything which you want to admit based on this situation? Right now, she's saying no, but there could be admission saying that I keep having ice cream without him. Okay, but yesterday I never had ice cream. This is admission. See, that person has a question, or your close friend might have a question that you did not invite her or him yesterday night. They did not put allegation saying that she always has ice cream without me. Correct? In the admission stage, you might actually agree saying that all the time I have ice cream alone only because I enjoy having ice cream alone. But yesterday night I don't have the ice cream. This could be the situation in the admission stage. And participants, anything which is admitted need not be tested. If you agree, I had ice cream without that person yesterday night, then it's a process. Why should I even conduct the test? Isn't it? So admission is the best evidence. So this stage, admission is given for anything which you want to admit, and I can exempt that particular content from my examination. That is why the stage of admission will be given as an opportunity for the subject. Okay, so fine. Let's assume you have no admissions to give at this stage. Now, Poonam, I have very simple questions to ask you. Okay, and I want you to answer with only single word answer, yes or no. All right. Fine. I'm going to ask you the question, if are we in the year 2021? And your answer is?
Yes.
Yes. Are we in the month of November?
Yes.
Is today Saturday?
Mm.
Are we presently at Bangalore?
Yes.
All right. Questions are very simple to answer, right? Now, further to this, I'm going to ask you some questions based on the particular situation. And my first question is going to be, did you have ice cream yesterday night without inviting your friend? Okay. Is my question clear to you? Okay. My question is very simple and very clear. That if in case you had ice cream, okay, ice cream might also include anything which you get in the ice cream parlor. Okay, ice cream necessarily doesn't mean only the ice cream. Okay, which may also include, that cone. Okay, or any kind of toppings. Okay, whatever is available from the ice cream store is what I mean by asking you if in case you had ice cream. All right. So, and your answer is? Okay. My next question to you would be, apart from yesterday, did you ever had ice cream alone?
Yes.
This is a admission, which she did not give it in the admission stage. So whatever the relevant question she gives as yes, that gets into the admission stage. So however, participants, what I'm connecting here is a very, very light topic to discuss. Suppose, on a very serious note, let me change the topic. Let me change the situation. Suppose, Poonam, your faculty in the classroom has alleged that you are copying in the exam. All right, let me take the situation now. Poonam was said to be copying in the exam. All right, so my question to you would be, Poonam, did you ever cheat in the exam?
No.
When I say, did you ever cheat in the exam? Please understand, the cheating includes taking any kind of help for writing your exams. Okay, taking any kind of material which is actually not prohibited, which is actually not permitted, taking any kind of external guidance to answer any of the questions in your question paper. All these things includes in cheating. So let me ask you the question again. Did you ever cheat in the exam?
No.
Your answer is no. Okay. Next question to you would be, did you help anyone to cheat in the exam?
No.
No. So Poonam, you should also understand the help will also include, okay, you passing on some material which is an answer for any question, or you being quiet after seeing that the person is copying. Chalo chalo kar lo yaar. Okay, that is also help. You know that the person is trying to copy, but still you don't object for it. That is also helping. So, and any kind of support which you offered. So it could be like, you passed an answer sheet from the right side person and gave it to the left side person. You did not copy, I know that, but you have taken the paper this side and gave it to the other person this side. This is also help only. So when I ask you the question, did you ever help anyone to cheat in the exam? And your answer is going to be
No.
No. So I am covering all the probabilities of helping. All right, next. My next question to you would be, Poonam, do you know for sure who copied in the exam in your classroom? No. Okay. When I ask this question, Poonam, there are only 3 probabilities for this. If you want to be very sure, I ask you the question, do you know for sure? All right. So this particular question can only be answered out of 3 probabilities. Probability number 1, you can be very sure if you have copied yourself. That is one probability. Or second probability is that you would have seen someone who is copying, so that you can be very sure of who copied in the exam. The third only possibility is that someone came to you and said, look, I copied in the exam. Only of these 3 probabilities you would know for sure as to who copied in the exam. So my question to you would be, do you know for sure who copied in the exam in the same classroom? And your answer is no. My questions are clear to you? All right. Apart from this few questions subject, you already have answered few of the questions earlier. Okay, and when I asked you the question, in the past 5 years, did you ever lie to the person who trusted you? You already have answered as no. In your entire life, did you cheat anyone who trusted you? You already have answered as no. Before the age of 15 to 17 years, did you ever steal anything from the people who trusted you? You already have answered as no. Correct? When you answered 8 out of 10 and you took the list of the people who trusted you, okay, that's what you answered. Am I correct? All right. So ultimately, dear participants, what I have done so far is that I have recorded all the statements given by the subject in a format. So this would be signed by the person also as a consent. This would be a consent form. I am voluntarily appearing for the particular test so that these are my answers and I'll not change these answers anymore. These are the answers which can be tested. So I'm going to now take the help of the computer. So far what you're seeing on the screen is not the test phase. This is just a pre-test phase to understand how the person's reaction to the whole process. Is the person appearing to be calm, or is the person appearing to be emotionally so distracted? This is something which I can get to know from this particular graph. After this, on the screen, you can see that there has a procedure. I'm going to choose some question which would be predefined. So I should actually work on defining the question, who is the client, who is the subject. So accordingly, I'm going to choose that questions, and there will be a lot of, okay, I should show you the questions. Wait, question sets. Okay, this is how the questions are prepared and fed into the application. This interface might be different based on different polygraph kits. However, ultimate procedure is going to be the same. So I'm going to choose this kind of questions based on this situation. Accordingly, I'm going to ask the question one by one. So if you look at the question tests, it is very much classified as this is a sequence, the irrelevant question. The category IR refers to irrelevant questions. And the yes, I should only get yes as the answer for this question. And this is the first question. And I would actually take 25 seconds to ask this question and to move on to the next question. That is the time frame which I can allocate based on subject to subject. So this is the interface for this particular tool. And accordingly, I have added all the questions which I should be asking the subject in this test. Let me just take one particular test. Okay. However, the question on the screen and the question in my list might not be same, because that takes a lot of time for me to start feeding the question, align the questions in the same sequence, and then to ask the question. So to get a first-hand feel, let me start asking the question. Is today Saturday? The person answered yes. Okay, I'll choose the answer as yes. All right. Do you intend to lie to any of the questions in this test? No. Do you intend to lie to any of the questions in this test? No. Previously, that selection did not happen. That's why I did the question once again. And participants should be noted that I am trying to be the speaker as well as connecting the test. So this is not the way the real polygraph is going to happen, because in the real polygraph, there should be no break. There should be continuous process, because we would have developed a rapport. Accordingly, we should be doing it. Are we in Bengaluru? All right. Before the age of 17, did you cheat anyone who trusted you? Did you cheat in the exam? Participants, the question set on the screen is different than the questions which I'm asking to the subject here. I just took some reference of the previous case for this understanding. Are we in the year 2021? Between the age of 15 and 18, did you steal anything from people who trusted you? Did you help anyone to cheat in the exam? Are we in the month of November? In your entire life, did you lie to anyone who trusted you? Do you know for sure who cheated in the exam? Did you lie to any of the questions in this? Did you lie to any of the questions in this test? All right. Thank you, subject. All right, you can relax. Okay. So first of all, I thank Poonam for being a subject for this whole test. But now that the test is over, Okay, on the screen, I'm going to share. This is a graph what we just obtained right now. While doing this graph analysis, see, ultimately, whatever the activity we did, this only gave me the graph of different readings and different parameters. But how does this actually indicate that if there is a lie or a truth? This effectively doesn't give me the information if it is a lie or a false. I mean the truth. It is a now the role of the examiner to go through the graph, its variation, its category of the questions, and everything. Ultimately, if in case I ask Poonam right now, Poonam, you actually said that you did not ever lie to the people who trusted you. But it's a matter of fact that we, or you for that matter, we all lie many a times to the people who trust us, isn't it? That means you would have lied to your parents, your siblings, everyone. But you have, in the previous question which I asked you, you have said no, no, and no, correct? This is where I mentioned the control questions, right? So the questions will be so asked that you cannot say yes to that. And because you're saying no to that, it would not adversely affect the test, which means there are a few questions which the examiner will ask you, for which the examiner will know what the answer is. And you are expected to go with the actual flow. And for the purpose of examination and the result declaration, it is a comparison of the graph which we obtained from the controlled questions and the relevant questions. That will actually indicate if you lied or you have been truthful in your statements or not. So on the screen, the statements on the graph between one red line and one blue line are the answers. The reaction, if you observe the screen, between the red and the blue, whatever the graph you see, that is the reaction as the answer for every question. But on the lower side, you can see the questions which were asked to you, IR3, C4, R5, okay, on the pink, green, and red color indication, that is showing you what question is that. Okay, so accordingly, for each question, the answers are captured between red line and blue line. So that graph would be assessed by the examiner to conduct the detailed investigation and to conclude if that statement for that particular question was being a deceptive statement or a truthful statement. So this is how the polygraph results are obtained. So I would like to conclude my session with this brief understanding of how the polygraph actually worked. However, participants, now the session can be open for discussion and any kind of questions which are to be answered. So please text your questions on the chat box so that the host, Mr. Harsha, is going to take care of these things. Harsha, over to you. Questions? Participants, if you have any questions, you please type it in the chat box. Okay. Okay. Yes, sir. Fine, got it. Participants, since Harsha, we have any questions? Yeah. Yes, participants, we do share the questions, what we are intending to ask in the test procedure before the test phase, that is in the pre-test phase. Subject will be made aware of what are the questions will be asked to them, and we also recording the statements as to what would be the answers. it will be made to we will share the questions before the questions will be asked. Yes.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes, Asha.
I'm audible, sir. So it's a Sridhar.
Post-test process is for the examiner to sit with the graph, to record, to observe the variation in the graph for different categories of questions, and then to start writing the observation and report. There could be a situation where the subject have failed in all the 3 relevant questions which I just now asked, or 1 or 2 or 3. So it can be optional questions also the person would have failed. So if the subject failed in all the 3, the subject lied to all the 3 questions, or subject lied to only this question or that question, that would be further assessed by the the post-test phase by the examiner.
Hello, sir. Hello, am I audible, sir?
It's against the principles of the PDD. You cannot say we can effectively lie. When we say the concept of PDD itself is a psychophysiological detection of deception. So which means even though you think you're confidently lying, there would be some, what do you call it as leakage of the emotion from your body part. That leakage of your emotion only can be read and categorized by the examiner or the person who is observing you as a lie or as a truth. Otherwise, there cannot be an effective lie with all normal circumstances, the way you speak the truth, and you cannot speak the lie in the same way. It is highly impossible. There should be some kind of leakage somewhere or the other. That should be only be tested by slow procedure. As a detailed procedure, it could be change in your voice, it could be change in your tone of the voice, there can be some kind of micro tremors in your voice, or there could be some micro expressions on your face. There should be something. You cannot effectively lie. That is the reality. Which one?
Graph lines.
Graph lines. See, the graph which I just showed to you, I also discussed in the previous, when I'm showing you the screen also, that these graphs are the result of the nodes, the readers connected to the body. Each such wire, okay, whatever we had just attached to the subject, each of such kind of input, this one will capture the parameters. Yes, this parameters includes the body temperature, sweat analysis, the breath, the pulse reading. All these things becomes the input parameters for this particular test. And if you observe this breath belt, okay, when you tie this belt and the person inhales and exhales, okay, how much it gets expanded. This is what the reading was capturing. Okay, so ultimately different body reactions are captured in the polygraph test. However, I would have used a few selective readers, but however there can be many such readers for sensitive information gathering. That is depending upon the software kit or the hardware kit what you're using. So based on that you get the different options. So ultimately any graph what you see is because of certain body reactions on screen.
So next question. Brain always affect the body. So what if the suspect is nervous while investigation?
The suspect is nervous in course of investigation. The graph, the full graph would be having that kind of stress only. And it's not only the relevant question which will show the change in the mindset. See, suppose I'm answering the relevant questions as yes. And I'm pretty normal. I'm pretty truthful to say, yes, today is Saturday. We are in Bangalore. We are in the year 2021. All those things are very truthful statements. To speak truth, I don't have to be scared. But when I'm asked a question about the relevant question, then I could be scared. So that change will give me one reading. But if I am nervous because of the whole process, even for answering my question for the relevant questions, there should be some huge variation in the graph. Ultimately, it is the difference between the difference between the irrelevant question, controlled question, and the relevant question is what we are trying to gather. If you're scared about the process, the entire thing, your benchmark of the stress itself would be plus or plus 2 to 3 points, for example. And in that plus 2 to 3 points, if in case you're decepting or you're lying, that particular statement would be having more graph variation. So it doesn't really matter if you're stressed for the whole situation. The examiner, before we start the whole process, we would understand if you're stressed or not. In the criminal investigation cases, police will get a medical fitness certificate, okay, that the subject is fit and fine for this particular process. In the other non-criminal cases, we actually gather information, how much time you slept yesterday night, is it your normal sleeping cycle? So all these things we gather information. And then we understand with the graph if the person is really good for this particular test, or we actually suggest to come back some other time when they are not scared, or we also first build a rapport with the subject. When I discussed in the beginning stage, we need to build that comfort. Okay, the comfort is all about making them align to what you want them to be doing. So that relaxing them when they come and sit in front of you is a first activity which would definitely answer your question.
So next question. Sir, if in real case scenario, if any person is subjected to lie detection and actually he is innocent, but in test he is proved as lying, then what is the credibility?
See, ultimately, in any kind of software what we use, the biggest labs using the software is a human being. Softwares will do what they are supposed to be doing, but it is a failure of the human beings on how we use such technology or such softwares will actually result in this kind of errors or this kind of miracles. Ultimately, when the examiner is the one who should be interpreting the result, there could be some human error. I don't deny with that, but a trained examiner or a trained and ethical examiner, they can never go wrong. So even if the person is innocent, if you look at the movie of Jolly LLB 2, okay, this person is actually innocent, but he was shown to be a liar before the court because of certain unethical practices adopted in the examination protocol. So I really should not be commenting about it, but technically speaking, this will only give the reality about the person's mind and his body reactions, which is pretty accurate in most of our investigation cases.
So the next question is, so what is electrodermal activity in polygraph?
See, that is one of the test procedures for lie detection. See, however, I can also see the tests related to the narco brain mapping. However, just the way we are discussing about the polygraph test, the other tests are also having their own scope and limitations for connecting the polygraph, the lie detection test. So one such test is the brain mapping. Okay, next is the narco test. So, however, in India, these two tests are actually prohibited by the same judgment, Selvi versus State of Karnataka. These two are considered to be violation of human rights and especially the constitutional rights of the individual. So for that reason, these two tests are totally prohibited. But the same judgment also gives a provision for conducting the polygraph test. So this is something which we are dealing on a routine basis. Polygraph is conducted, but not brain mapping and narco in regular practice. The subject is suffering from any diseases like that of hypertension or any other illness, the test procedures get changed accordingly to get the right results. If we realize a person is not normal or if he's medically or mentally suffering, we don't even consider this subject for the examination procedure. We'll actually send him back and we'll only do the test on the normal circumstances. And when you get a situation of disease and stress, that is, and that is a abnormal situation which is not good for conducting the polygraph test. Sanchita Mukherjee. Can polygraph test would be hacked? Saraj, no, polygraph test cannot be hacked. Okay, because hacking is a very bigger term to refer. However, what I understand is that is there any external source which can alter the result of the polygraph? I think this should be a question. So it again depends on the platform of the application. Some application works on cloud-based, some applications works on the hardware-based. So however, I have not come across any cases, real-time cases, where the polygraph test results were hacked. So if the examiner want that to be compromised, the examiners can compromise that with the unethical practice. But an external person logging onto your computer, taking the access of your computer, see, ultimately, if your computer is compromised, anything can be hacked. Why only polygraph test? But such real-time cases I have not come across, Mr. Saraj. Devaraya Ghosh has asked the question, polygraph versus narco test effectiveness and acceptance. I just mentioned all the methods of lie detection tests are effective in their own manner. Okay, I don't actually say this is best and this is worst. No. So, however, each of these tests has got their own skill set, their own procedures of conducting the whole test. So, acceptance-wise, a polygraph and narco, the results are no way accepted as evidence, but in terms of knowing the fact, polygraph can be used, but narco, as per this judgment, is not actually being permitted. Polygraph can be permitted upon fulfilling the guidelines of NHRC in India. And if people ask me, why is it only in India, or it's only because of the 20 subclause 3, Article 20 subclause 3. Otherwise, polygraph is a very effective tool. Even today, a lot of our investigation agencies, internal intelligence agencies, they still make their agents to undergo this test to understand if they are agents or double agents. Okay, so every 3 months, 4 months, they have to undergo this test. So that only means this test is very, very accurate and scientific. But because of in India, as per our constitutional provision of this 20 subclause 3, that is why in India we don't use polygraph results as a evidence. Okay. If the subject practice for the polygraph test is that, will be affect this test. Megha Ghosh, can you please redefine your question, because I could not understand your question. Oh, you mean subject practice for the polygraph test? Okay. See, ultimately, the person before coming to the test, that's what I mentioned to you, that people would be definitely prepared to answer the relevant questions. But it is all the scope in the examiner's hand as to how you're going to conduct that particular chronology of the test. But ultimately, whatever practice they come with, and we should this should be answered with the countermeasures. Yes, I just gave you the understanding that the nodes which are connected to your body measures your sweat in the body temperature, okay, the breath, speed of your breath, and a lot of this kind of physiological parameters. Can you artificially change this? If this is the question, yes, there is a method which can actually be manually changed, because it all depends on how you want to present yourself. Suppose you just have to pinch yourself very hard or bite your tongue very hard. Ultimately, you start sweating because of pain. Okay, your body temperature will go high because of pain. So what are the parameters I just took for reading your statements? All these parameters can be artificially affected because of the countermeasure. Countermeasure can be the pain which you can just make it for yourself. And if such is the situation, for all the questions, the graph would be plus or plus 2 to 3 points higher. So ultimately, that difference between the controlled and relevant question would always be seen irrespective of the person preparing or not being prepared. That is very much the base of the polygraph test. So can actor be detected that they are lying using polygraphy? Because actors have well control on their body reactions or responses. See, actors are acting consciously, okay, in that situation. Okay, but if in case you put them on the subject as a subject to the polygraph test, anything can be rejected, whatever they are not trying to be truthful. So when they come to the polygraph test, they are none other than any other ordinary subject. So there is no differentiation between an actor or a trained. See, for a trained person, they can pose a better control over their body reactions. However, a trained expert can definitely understand if that is a reaction because of natural or such kind of control. It is left to the discretion and the skill of the examiner. I don't say people cannot really practice and come, but it is in very, 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 very rare cases, which is actually the trainings even for our typical internal agencies like raw military intelligence. So these are people who will be trained on how to cheat the polygraph tests. But the technology what we are getting these days, not everything can effectively be cheated. So probably if you ask me, I adopt 3 different parameters for the polygraph test. One, the this tool which you just now saw. Second is the micro expressions. We usually also have a camera, okay, which would be capturing the whole micro expressions, and also the body language. So all these 3 would be effectively adopted for various of our discussions. However, body language is situational. We don't have to consider body language so effectively for the reporting purpose, but micro expressions and this input is what I personally use for my examination procedures. And considering different inputs, we are going to conclude the whole report. That's what we do in our laboratory. Mind influence body. So if a person has ability to control over his mind, for example, psychologist, can he manipulate the test? Probably, Sumita, I just answered the question. There cannot be 100% manipulation possible. Okay. So participants, what is the role of chemical synopsis in polygraph test? We don't use any kind of chemicals because using a chemical will come into narco test. Okay, polygraph is just to assess the body reaction and the questions which are being asked. So that is the significance of your body language. Okay, participants, if you have any further questions, please text or participants, our team will be sharing can the resulting graph from the polygraph test be considered as a form of evidence during critical cases? No, Soniv, no, I just discussed this, that the results of polygraph cannot be used as evidence. That is not a direct evidence at all. That will be a corroborative evidence. Based on this particular result, when you actually find something which is a fact after this, that fact finding would be used as a relevant evidence. But the result of the polygraph test alone cannot be used as a evidence before any case. You would have obtained the court order for conducting the polygraph test, but that test, by adopting the NHRC guideline, we can actually do that. NHRC guideline can actually talk about this particular how to conduct the test and how not to conduct the test. Okay, so otherwise, court can give the orders for conducting the polygraph tests. Is raised in heartbeat considered as a sign that the person is lying? That is not the only parameter. That cannot be the only parameter. Okay, however, one of the parameter for understanding if there is a stress, which is being changed, that can be the pulse rate, which I already discussed. That can be one of the pulse, but not the only thing.
मुझे वो लिंक का वो चाहिए था.
All right, dear participants, I think we have discussed sufficient with the questions which we have asked.
क्या?
ये 7 में बोल रही SEVEN फिर से SEVEN ऐसे बोल रही. हम ऐसे बोलते हैं ना CEN7 ऐसे नहीं
Participants, I think if in case you have any other questions, you can chat or put your questions in the chat box so that we can get back to you on this. However, I'll take the last question. Ikta Mondal has asked the question: if can eyes affect the body and face while investigating a suspect? Yes, the eye contact will be one of the parameters, and it does affect how long the other person is trying to establish the eye contact. Might actually be one reason where you actually get disturbed with your emotional preparation. Okay, so yes, it is positive that eyes can definitely be of some significance for changes. Okay, participants. Okay, the chat box. Participants, I see that there is some questions related to some participation webinar certificates. Our team is just working on this. So they should be sharing the information to you. Over to the host, Harsha. Right.
Okay, audience, our teammate gonna. Okay, audience, our teammate gonna help you to go through the Google form, how to do and how to proceed with it. So, Sridhar, are you there?
Sridhar, are you there? Sridhar, are you there?
Yeah, please help the participants to fill the certificate form.
Am I audible?
Participants, with this, I'm stopping the broadcast on the YouTube live. So we'll also share the Zoom link so that people who are on the YouTube live right now can join our Zoom link.
Sir,
Just the name
just a
for
minute,
the
sir.
certificate. So I'm stopping. Akshita is commenting. Yeah.
So just a minute, I will share one document here. Is it visible?
Okay, participants, I think I should be stopping the broadcast. So the link for the Zoom will be shared very soon on the chat box. So people who are on the YouTube live, we have shared the link so you can join the Zoom and submit your Google Forms. So I'm stopping the broadcast right now. Team, please stop the broadcast now. Participants, thank you very much for joining us this evening. It was a very good discussion what we had, and I look forward for similar participation in any of our future discussions very soon. So we shall be holding this kind of real-time discussions very soon. So I look forward for your all